Hey, what's up, everybody? Tim Albrecht here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast, where we feature questions from you, the YFP community, to be answered by one of our very own fee-only certified financial planners. Please note this podcast is intended for educational purposes and should not be considered financial or investment advice, as we do not know all the variables to one's personal situation when answering a question. Before we jump into today's question, a shout out to our extraordinary YFP financial planning team that makes this segment possible. Your Financial Pharmacist offers fee-only comprehensive financial planning services that are customized to the pharmacy professional. So whether you want to pay off your student loans, make the right investment decisions, or simply build a solid financial plan, we'll help get your income working for you rather than the other way around. You can learn more by visiting yfpplanning.com. Again, that's yfpplanning.com. Okay, this week's question comes from Hilary in Madison, Wisconsin.
Hi, this is Hilary from Madison, Wisconsin, and I was wondering about federal tax withholdings for part-time pharmacists. I recently started working in a new pharmacy part-time, well, really PRN since I don't have any set hours. On my paychecks, they're withholding Social Security, Medicare, and state taxes, but not federal taxes. I confirm that I am a W-2 employee. I know that W-4s changed last year, but I don't understand why taxes wouldn't be withheld. HR wasn't much help and said that she thought I had to earn a certain amount first. I know that I could have a certain dollar amount withheld from each paycheck to prevent owing taxes at the end of the year, but I just find this confusing and was hoping you could offer some insight on tax withholding for part-time pharmacists. Thanks.
Thank you, Hilary, for submitting your question to be featured on this week's Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast. Tim Baker, what are your thoughts?
So I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant, Tim, if you would just allow me the space. And this is something that's a little bit near and dear to my heart as I'm learning more as we continue to expand our team. But
yeah,
when I read this, when I heard this question or read the backstory of it is, before I piss her off and going over her head, I think one of the things that bothers me about this is what's human resources there for? And I'm not there to offend anybody out there in the HR world, but I was kind of searching for some resources on this, and I came to a website that says Human Resources Department functions, staff and needs, compensation, benefits, performance appraisal, and law compliance. So 2 and 3 are compensation and benefits. And I feel like time and time again, when I've worked with employees that have questions about their compensation and benefits, there's this major pushback to kind of get information. So it has to change. There has to be a better route, because these are legitimate questions that affect your employees are going to be your biggest resource. So
are you going to start an HR consulting business? Is that what
I need to it's frustrating, because it's not we see these types of questions, but it's also even our clients, it's they can't be bothered to answer these questions. So this scenario, Hilary, just sounds super odd to me. And I don't understand why they would take out state and kind of some of these payroll taxes, but not federal. And you're not a 1099 employee. So I think by default, what employers typically would treat you is that they are the sole source of your income. So it's very unusual for them to say hey, we're not going to withhold anything, because that typically puts the average person in a bind that may not know any better from a tax perspective. Obviously, Hilary, you're looking at this, more, but that you're not surprised by a big tax bill. So to me, I would absolutely go back to this person and go over your head if need be, or go over their head if they need be. Because this is a vital function that should be able to answer something that seems outside of the norm of what we typically see. So there are a few things that you can do kind of on your own. So you have access to your W-4 at any time. So you can put in, and we typically recommend clients look at a W-4 and resubmit this. So this is basically telling your employer what to withhold. So the IRS, believe it or not, their website, irs.gov, has a decent W-4 calculator that if you have the pay stubs from both your full-time employment and your part-time employment, and you kind of go through their questionnaires, they'll be able to produce a W-4 for you to use and submit to your places of employment. So the one thing, if we step back even further, most pharmacists that we work with are in that 22, 24% tax bracket. So as we all know, the U.S. tax system is a progressive income tax method. So we basically, every dollar that you make, once you get to a certain amount, it's taxed more. So if you know that, say you're in a 24% tax bracket. So let's pretend you make more, you're married filing jointly, you make more than 172,000, those dollars are going to be taxed at 24%. So let's say that you add another $1,000 of income, just broad strokes, for this part-time gig, and now you're making 173,000. We know that the additional monies that should be withheld from those earnings should be about $240 or 24%.
Yep.
So if you think about it that way, if you know kind of what your tax rate is, you can either by dollar amount flat fee or the withholding tell the employer this is what you need. So that one of the problems with withholding, especially if you have multiple employers, is that it's not like they're communicating with each other. You're kind of on an island and you're trying to piece it together as best you can, which is why, again, having a tax professional might be a good thing to go through things like projections and what to expect. And, big tip of the cap to the YFP tax team, because this is kind of the things that we, work through all the time just to make sure that there are no tax surprises. But I would point you first, Hilary, to the IRS.gov website, get your kind of ducks in a row, and then I think go back to HR or HR's boss and just say like, hey, is this something that you can help me with? I'm not understanding, why state and some of these other taxes, but not federal. It just doesn't seem like that makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah. And Hilary, when you push back, please reach back out. I would love to know what is the outcome of this, what you find out. And I think this is a good place to put that HR professional to work a little bit, knowing that it might not just be a question Hilary has, but it could come up in the future again. So I think it's helpful information for others. And I couldn't agree more. Here, a good shout out to the YFP tax team. This to me is a good question. One of many examples we've talked about where it's helpful to have somebody in your corner, not only for the filing, but to look at projections, to answer questions like this, what to expect in the upcoming year, what are adjustments and withholdings. And we're proud to offer that service as a part of what we do for our comprehensive financial planning clients. So again, if that's something you're interested in, head on over to yfpplanning.com. We'd love to talk to you as a part of a free discovery call. Hilary, again, thank you so much for taking time to submit your question to be featured on this week's Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist podcast. As a small thank you, we're going to be sending you a super comfy YFP t-shirt, and we'd like to hear from you, the YFP community. If you have a question that you would like to have featured on an upcoming episode, please head on over to yourfinancialpharmacist.com/ask YFP or send us an email at info@yourfinancialpharmacist.com. Have a great rest of your week.